The Daily Nation, Apex Court disallows hijab in schools. The Court of Appeal had allowed Muslim girls at Christian school to wear attire, and schools are said now they'll have the final say on uniform, including religious outfit, after a ruling. On the Standard, they said that schools' hijab case back to High Court. The Supreme Court has referred a case back to the High Court in which church-sponsored schools had been barred from discriminating against students who profess other faiths. I saw some channels, some outlets reporting that the Supreme Court now has dealt with this matter, which I don't think is the case. It's just a matter of referral to the High Court because they feel the petitioners were not accorded the right stage to make their case. But when you look at this, we have come so far in as far as allowing liberalism or freedoms, people to learners to enjoy different freedoms at schools. What do you make of this confusion that we find ourselves in?
Well, well, I also got the same information that the Apex Court made a decision that hijab for schools that do not allow it is prohibited. And you know, schools have regulations, they have laws. I remember when we first got our letters to join high school, there was a huge catalog of things to carry, things to do and not to do. And these are regulations that are governed under the Basic Education Act. So if my child is a Muslim, for instance, and wants to join a Catholic school, and the conduct of my child as a Muslim in a Catholic school is not reflective of the character and the way things are done within a Catholic fraternity, then it is my responsibility as a parent to move the kid to a Muslim school where he can then practice his faith and religion as much as he wants. But we are not going to tinker with schools' regulations just because we want to accept everybody under the same huge laws of our constitution. So if indeed the Apex Court made that decision, then I would be very much in line with that kind of a thing. Because then we are going to force our schools to always tamper with their regulations every year, just because they have admitted a new student. I looked at what happened in Starehe with that case from Meru. Starehe Boys Center stood its ground and said, you may have been selected to join this school, but the due process wasn't followed. There is a yellow form that begins right from primary school all the way to Starehe Boys Center. So there could have been a mistake for you to have been admitted, and they stood their ground, and I am told that the boy has since moved to Mangu High School. So the school regulations cannot be tampered with just to incorporate every person within the education strata.
But then where do you leave the freedom of religion?
No, some tell you what. Religious intolerance has killed more people than cancer has in the world. And I am a supporter of religious tolerance. I think that we need to have respect for other people's faith. And I say that because I am born and raised Adventist, and I went to a Catholic school, the St. Mary's Yala, and later went to Orero, which was largely Lutheran. But I was given the leeway to practice my faith. Never mind, as an Adventist, I still trained the YCS choir, which was a Catholic choir. Because of being afforded that latitude, I would not be the first to cast a stone against the Muslims who would prefer to join, a school that's not Islam in nature. And so I await that ruling. I saw Ahmed Nasir had said that a ruling was made and Justice Ojuang had a dissenting opinion, so I don't know what he was referring to. But I think our schools, there needs to be a way in which we can accommodate each other. Because sometimes these kids come to the school because it's the nearest school. So a Muslim student from a poor background has to go to a day school. The day school within the radius of 5 kilometers is a Christian school or is not a Muslim school. And this is the only school they can come to. Are you then telling me that because of their rules and being intolerant, then this child will not have a right to education? Those are the realities of life. And as a policy person, I need to urge and admonish that even as a ruling is made, because even the Adventists, some of the Adventist students said we cannot read on Saturday. It's our Sabbath. And from sunset Friday to sunset Sabbath, allow us, and we can do the other things. Because I know that these things are there, I would urge religious tolerance. And any ruling from our courts ought to factor in the extremisms that we have experienced in recent days, and some of them stem from such decisions that do not consider the interest of others. Never mind, most of them are grossly misguided, the extremisms we see, but some of them are easy to fool and say, you see, they don't want us, they just like this. So let us find a balance, so long as they do not expressly interfere with the learning process of the other student. I think they should be allowed a chance.
Well, I think there are two main sources of conflict in the world. Conflict over resources and conflict over beliefs. And the latter is very complicated to preside over. And therefore, what Osiany is saying is something that we must borrow a leave, that we think of this issue as an issue of belief. These Muslims believe that this is right, and the Christians believe this is right. And to preside over in a court of law is very hard. What we should do is to see how we can midwife such that a Muslim girl or boy, in this case a girl, when he goes to a Catholic or a Christian school, does not find herself being rejected by the rules obtaining in the school. Now, take it back. If I'm an Akorino, am I allowed to go to a school and still don the Akorino attire? And if the answer is yes, then what is the difference between a Akorino and a Muslim? Why don't we give them a chance to express their beliefs without necessarily making them look that they are different from us? Yeah.
All right, and of course, as Jared said here, the clarity about this particular matter has been not very visible, but clearly when you look at the summary that came from the courts, it would indicate to you that there was a challenge on how the matter was pursued through the two superior courts, that's the High Court and the Court of Appeal, and that is why the Supreme Court has said that let me just read it out. However, the court, however, recognizes that the issue as contained in the impunged cross petition is an important national issue that will provide a jurisprudential moment for this court to pronounce itself upon in the future. However, to do so, it is imperative that the matter ought to reach us in the proper manner, so that when a party seeks redress from this court, they ought to have had the matter properly instituted, the issues canvassed and determined in the professionally competent chain of courts leading up to this apex court. And in view of this, the court recommends that should any party wish to pursue this issue, they ought to consider instituting the matter formally at the High Court. There was a problem with how submissions are made before court. The oral submissions cannot be taken as the formal, in terms of what is written submissions per se. So of course we continue to pursue that story, but what is emerging is that this is not a condemnation. It doesn't mean that schools can stop learners from accessing schools because of this ruling.